Applied behavior analysis versus Supernanny. Science versus experience. Let's see how they compare when we put them head to head.
The problems that we have with Bryce basically are back talking us all the time.
No!
Not listening.
Get in here now!
Get in here.
No!
Got it.
Being very rude and disrespectful to us.
No!
You're 6 years old. Stop.
Bryce,
No. Settle down.
Bedtime with Rylan. It's pretty frustrating.
Rylan just does not want to go to bed at night.
And at the beginning of every episode, Supernanny gets information about the family struggle. Now, in applied behavior analysis, we do have something similar. It is called an indirect functional assessment. And the way we carry this out is we would meet with someone who is familiar with the person who's having the problem behavior. And then we would discuss and get more information to see if there were any environmental factors, or really try to identify the environmental factors that are responsible for the problem behavior. And we call this an indirect assessment because we are not directly observing the behavior. So it's secondhand information. And these indirect assessments are usually in the form of checklists, questionnaires, rating scales, and interviews. And so we have a match in approaches here, and we are at 1 out of 1.
I'm Bryce. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Bryce.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Jen, and this is Rylan.
Hello, Rylan. When I first arrived at the Bullard family, they were extremely pleased to see me.
Say nice to meet
Say
you.
hi.
Pleased to meet you.
Come on in.
Okay.
I think I was expecting an older, very stern woman.
Before working with a client, we go through something called pairing, and this is an antecedent procedure. An antecedent means it is something that we do before we start working with the behavior we want to investigate. Now, the word pairing actually comes from stimulus-stimulus pairing. So if you have a preferred stimulus, and then you bring a neutral stimulus, so you have something you like and then something you don't like, and then you repeatedly present those two together, the neutral thing will eventually acquire the properties of the thing that you do like. So the new stimulus acquires the function of the old stimulus. And this is called stimulus-stimulus pairing. Now, in this situation, we actually do this with enjoyable tasks. So we do some pairing when we're first introducing ourselves to the client or to the family. In this situation, you can see here that Supernanny is actually engaging in a little bit of pairing. And you can see that the interaction is positive. They are speaking positively of her. So that's a successful pairing process. So we have a match in approaches here, and we are at 2 out of 2.
Jen and Bryce, I know that you've got some issues that need to be addressed, but I'm here today to observe you as a family. So go ahead as normal, make out I'm not here, and I will watch you.
Sounds
you.
great.
Brilliant. All right,
Thank
then.
you.
So a key part, a key role in what we do, a very important part of behavior analysis is to carry out something that's called a functional behavior assessment. Now, this looks to find out why someone is behaving the way they do. It actually looks to find the environmental variables that influence someone's behavior. And then once we know that, we then manipulate the environmental variables to either increase or reduce the behavior of interest. And a big part of functional behavior assessments consists of direct observations. So this is where we observe the client or the person, the behavior of interest, in the natural environment, which is exactly what Supernanny is doing here. So we have another match in approaches, and we are at 3 out of 3.
Tell me about your day.
Crazy!
It was cold out. Right.
Yes!
What's the deal?
It's the deal.
Brycey could sometimes be disrespectful in back-talking his parents.
That's not
Very
nice.
nice.
You don't have to say that. You don't have to talk like that. Hey. Right.
And is that constant? The smart mouthing?
The smart mouthing, yeah, has definitely gotten worse. Smart mouthing is real bad.
So direct observations, they enable you to understand what's actually going on in the natural environment, as I said before. And another important part of direct observations is they help you to identify the problem behavior, because someone could show a range of behaviors, but which behavior is the one that needs to be targeted? And in this situation, smart mouthing is the one that's been identified. However, these direct observations can give you skewed data or skewed information if they're only carried out at a limited time. So if you're only observing someone in the morning or maybe for one day, you're not going to get the full picture compared to observing the same person over several days, but at different times of the day. And I'm not seeing this here. So we go down. This is now 3 out of 4.
Hey, Bryce, you're gonna go to timeout and go to bed early. You're gonna go to bed early tonight.
Okay.
And the mimicking, all of that.
Yeah, he does that to annoy us.
So Bryce, the father, issues a punishment to Bryce, the son. This could get confusing, but punishment as you know it is not the same as punishment in applied behavior analysis. And this is a major source of controversy. Let's geek out for a second. So in applied behavior analysis, punishment means a stimulus change that follows a behavior. So anything that happens after a behavior, which then results in the reduction of the future frequency of that behavior. And then and only then is that called punishment. So, for example, say you have a child who is very shy and they go to school and they do an exam. They complete the exam and they get amazing marks and the teacher is proud. So teacher calls this child to the front of the class and be like, hey, great. Look at what Susan has done. Susan scored 100% on this exam. This is absolutely fantastic. But Susan is so shy, she finds the whole experience aversive. She doesn't like it. She doesn't like it so much that she makes a decision that she's going to make sure she doesn't do as well in the following exam because she doesn't want to get in front of the classroom. That is actually a punishment procedure because it's actually reduced the future frequency of high performance in that particular subject. So this is where the confusion comes. But anyway, so Bryce is issuing a punishment, which is meant to be a punishment procedure, but it's only punishment if the behavior actually decreases. And punishment has actually been shown through research to reduce problem behavior, but it has some problems. It has some issues. It has side effects. Number one, it affects the relationship you have with the person. Number two, they might find the environment aversive or you aversive, breakdown in rapport, relationship. You can get emotional outbursts from punishment and you're not really building skills. You're like suppressing behavior. So if you think of it as a stream of water and the water is coming down a hill, you block that stream, that water is going to eventually find its way around. So if there's a need that needs to be met, just using punishment to suppress a behavior is not a solution. And as a behavior analyst, a certified behavior professional, so if you're a BCBA in the United States or a UK BA cert in the UK, then you have a code of conduct that you must follow. And this code of conduct says punishment procedures must be a last resort after everything else has been tried. And the risk of harm from the procedure is lower than the risk of harm from not doing an intervention. Is it in their best interests? But let's see what Supernanny makes of all this. Let's see if she tackles this point at all.
There you go, guys. Don't colour on the table.
The boys were colouring at the dining table and Rylan went to colour on Bryce's book and he had an absolute fit.
Bryce! Stop! Rylan! Bryce! Stop it!
Tell him to go to
Settle
timeout.
down. Bryce!
No, put him in timeout. Go.
Bryce, listen to me a second.
Hey,
Hey! Bryce!
that's ridiculous.
Look
Go
at
tell
me.
him. Go to
Look
timeout.
at, just wait a second, Bryce. Brycey, look at me. Okay? He doesn't know better.
Bryce, he doesn't understand. That's
Bryce,
the
that's
problem.
not yours. Yours is right here.
Yeah, you don't have to act like that.
It's all right.
Why do you act like that?
Bryce.
It's all just got a little bit heated. There's no communication going on in the kitchen. And clearly, Mum has had enough.
And there we go again. Here's another example of Dad. Bryce is now telling Mom to implement a timeout procedure because Bryce is being vocal. Bryce the son is being very vocal. So in behavior analysis, this is not what we would do. We would use a functional behavior assessment to find out why the behavior is happening. So what are the reinforcing consequences? What's happening after the behavior, which is actually strengthening that behavior? What's the outcome that Bryce wants from behaving in this way? So what are the maintaining consequences? Number one. Number two, what are the signals? What's the discriminative stimulus? Which means, what are the signals that Bryce is receiving that if he becomes vocal when his brother does this, then he's going to get the outcome that he wants? So that's the other thing. What are those signals? That's number two. And then number three, motivating operations. What are the environmental variables that are increasing the value of that outcome to Bryce? And then what we would do is then manipulate those variables, the discriminative stimulus, the signals, the motivating operations, what's making it more valuable, and also the consequences, what happens after the behavior. We would manipulate those three things to then bring the behavior down. Punishment would not be a first port of call. And Supernanny does not seem to have picked up on this. So our matching score goes down to 3 out of 5.
Bullard Plumbing. Bullard Plumbing.
The phone doesn't stop ringing. It's constantly ringing. It's really loud as well.
That was too easy.
Hey, don't drag him.
Easy.
Where were you? Oh, come on.
Businesswoman now.
Now, you might have a plan of how you're going to support your family, and how well you stick to that plan is called procedural integrity. And procedural integrity is important because when it's poor, it's associated with poor outcomes. So if you have a behavior support plan that's not being followed, it's not going to do the job. Now, there are generally two reasons why procedural integrity is poor. Number one, people can't do it. That is, they don't have the skill or the knowledge to be able to carry out the procedure. Number two, people won't do it, and that is because there are competing contingencies in the environment that might make it difficult for someone to carry out that plan the way it was intended. And those are the two main reasons why procedural integrity is sometimes poor. So it is clear that Jen is juggling a lot here. So let's see if Supernanny actually picks up on that, because the likelihood of procedural integrity being high, it's probably not going to happen.
So there's plenty to do here during the day.
Oh, there you go.
There goes my phone.
Jen's just taken on too much for her own good.
Come
Nothing's really being done properly.
And that's another match in approaches, and we are up to 4 out of 6. We'll see later on how Supernanny tackles this problem, if she does.
Putting Rylan to bed takes hours. I think it was maybe 9 times he had gotten up. Until finally I just agreed that he could sit on the sofa. Sit with Mommy? No. It just feels hopeless. I just don't see an end coming to it.
So, as I said before, when trying to help someone with a problem behavior, what we want to do is understand why that behavior is happening. And once we understand why, then that why can help us to develop effective strategies to reduce that problem behavior. Now, what Jen is relating over here is something called intermittent reinforcement. So, reinforcement you can think of as a stimulus change that follows a behavior that results in the increase of the future frequency of that behavior. So it strengthens the behavior. So for example, teaching a child math problems, every time the child gets a math problem correct, if you give them verbal praise and their preferred chocolate, you are reinforcing that behavior. You can think of it as reward. But the terms are really specific in behavior analysis. It's only reinforcement if that behavior increases in the future. So if you're still giving the child chocolate, but the behavior does not increase and in fact it goes down, then that's not reinforcement. The interesting thing about once a behavior has been taught and is established, you do not need to reinforce that behavior every time it happens. You only need to reinforce it once in a while. So in Ryland's case, he's getting out of bed 9 times a night, 10 times a night. And if he's successful once in a while, successful in staying up, then that is maintaining that behavior, and that behavior will not go away. Intermittent reinforcement. So let's see if Supernanny picks up on this and what she recommends.
You run a successful business that's open 24/7. But let me remind you, you're both parents, and that's a 24/7 job too. We've got Brycey who backchats. I mean, why do you sit and tolerate Brycey who's 6 years old and he talks to you with such disrespect?
I don't know what else I could do. I mean, I can't smack him or anything because that's not right, you know.
Your boy is laughing at the pair of you, and you're his parents. You're meant to be in charge. It's absurd. Sleeping is a big, big, big issue in this house. You have taught Ryland exactly how to behave. You have given him the bad habits. You've taught him that if he screams and cries enough, that he can come out into the sofa. Can you blame him?
No.
Well, that was harsh, but we do agree on approaches, so that is 5 out of 7.
Hello. How are you?
Good.
Good. I want to put something for the pair of you on the fridge door. When I've seen the issues that need to be addressed, I then go into the family with a new household routine. The Bullard work and family schedule.
I'm excited, okay.
They so badly need to maintain a balance between their work and their family life.
This work and family schedule gives you boundaries. Where you see red, it means that you can answer the phone, which I think's evened out nicely throughout the day.
I think so too.
The places where I've stated that you need to have the phone off is because they're crucial to your family. There's no reason why this can't work.
So Supernanny introduces yet again another routine, but this time I'm in support of it. And here's why. Number 1, stress and burnout contribute to poor procedural integrity. So if Jen can't follow the plan as she's meant to, the plan is not going to work. And having that stress and being burnt out, that's definitely not going to help. So having those scheduled breaks in the day is a big positive. Number 2, the schedule includes family time, which could be an abolishing operation for Ryland getting out of bed. Let me explain. One of Supernanny's hypotheses is that Ryland is getting out of bed to spend time with his parents because this is the only opportunity for him to get quality time with Jen and Bryce. So, by having quality time scheduled during the day, it reduces the value of Ryland consistently, repeatedly getting out of bed to try and get that quality time. Think of it as having your favorite food. You're less likely to want your favorite food after you've had like 3 servings of it. So that's the kind of idea that this schedule is supporting. I'm in support of that, and therefore it is a match in approaches, and we are at 6 out of 8.
I think that's fantastic. I know he is probably annoyed because he wants me to answer the phone 24 hours a day. But I think that will help me out tremendously.
I think it'll work well, except for maybe the phones for the business. But other than that, I hope we can stick to the schedule.
Bryce doesn't seem impressed, does he?
After establishing the routine, I wanted to address the discipline and the children's naughty behaviour. These mats, there's 2 of them. Hello. Rug, yes.
Rug.
It's a rug. Yes, it is, Ryland. I'm introducing naughty mats into the home. OK, this is how it goes. You give your children a warning. You tell them to stop the behaviour that's not acceptable. You come down to their level, OK?
Okay.
and you give them eye contact and you use a voice. That's low like that. Stop that behaviour. Now, once you give that warning, if they don't listen to you, you place them on the naughty mat. You say to them, you've not listened and I want you to stay there now until I come and get you. When that time is up, you go back over and you say to them, that behaviour was not acceptable. You know why you're here on that step. I want an apology.
And here we have naughty mats, which is a variation of the naughty stool or the naughty step. And the naughty mats are intended to be a punishment procedure, and specifically something called a timeout from positive reinforcement procedure. And this is what it means. So if Bryce or Rylan were to show problem behavior, then they would be removed from a positively reinforcing environment. They would be removed from an environment that they enjoy being for a specified amount of time. This procedure is only effective if a person actually wants to be in that environment. So using a timeout procedure in a classroom, the person might not actually want to be in the classroom. So it isn't actually a punishment procedure. So instead of actually reducing the behavior that you're targeting, you would be increasing the behavior. The person actually has to enjoy being in the environment from which they're being removed. And here's my problem, my issue with this whole situation. There is no functional behavior assessment. I don't know why why Bryce or Rylan are behaving in this way. Is there a need that needs to be met? Is there a health issue? So we have a mismatch and we are down to 6 out of 9.
Hi, you've reached Bullard Plumbing. Please leave a message and we'll get back to you as soon as possible.
The phones were off, the schedule was working well, everything was going fine until Brycey started to play up. Bring me your backpack, sweetie. Brycey started to push Rylan around and he just wouldn't stop.
Bryce, stop.
Jen, first warning.
Stop.
First
if I have
warning.
to ask you again, you'll go to the naughty mat.
He didn't stop pushing his little brother around, so he got sent to the naughty mat.
I'm not going to have you act like this. Stop. Stop. Walk to the mat right now. Change your tone.
And he did not like it. He started shouting and yelling at the top of his voice.
If you don't put your foot down now and you don't show him authority, don't look at him. Don't look at him and don't give him dirty looks. You're the adult here and you're in charge.
Okay.
All right? Just ignore him shouting and you just do your thing with Rylan. Yeah, and after the 6 minutes, then you go over to him, okay?
Okay.
Jen stuck out the 6 minutes and she went and told him, I want an apology.
I will listen to you, but I want you to calmly tell me what you have to say. Give me a hug. I want you to say you're sorry.
This is what we do. This is what we do.
You didn't listen to Mummy, so Mummy would like an apology for that behaviour.
You get the apology, he comes off the mat, okay? And I'm saying this quite clearly in front of you, Brycey. You know why? Because you're a smart, intelligent boy, and I know that you know better. But you do need to listen to Mummy.
Brycey's realising that when he behaves in a way that's unacceptable, there is a consequence for it.
Come here. Come here. Okay.
So once an intervention is developed, we have something called behavioral skills training. And the reason for this is that most training is knowledge-based. It's like a lecture. You get written content and you learn that content. And basically what it teaches you is it teaches you to repeat the content back. So it teaches you verbal behavior. Now in behavioral skills training, it's a competence-based training. Can you actually do the plan? Can you do the job? That's what it's all about. So in behavioral skills training, what I would do, working with you, is I would describe the procedure that you need to do. And then I would tell you why you need to do the procedure. And then I would show you how to do the procedure. So I might practice with your child, student, your loved one, show you how to carry out the procedure. And then I would get you to carry out the same procedure while I'm watching. And then I would give you feedback as you're practicing. And it doesn't end there. So the next step is then I would then be checking how closely you're following the plan. I would have a checklist, having broken down the procedure into component steps and checking how many of those steps you're getting correct. And we would do this together until you are scoring 100% on 3 consecutive times. And at that point, I say you've mastered the skill. You're good to go. And that's behavioral skills training. Now, we don't exactly see it this way in Supernanny. She doesn't exactly carry out the procedure in this way, but she's doing it to a certain extent. She's kind of giving feedback as she's working with Jen. So we have a match and we are up to 7 out of 10.
Mum and Dad have allowed Ryland's sleeping pattern to take over the entire family of an evening. This issue seriously needs to change because it's affecting everybody in the family dramatically.
Jen and Bryce, we're going to use the sleep separation technique with Ryland to get him off to sleep, okay? And this is how it works. You come into the room, you keep calm, you read a nighttime story, kisses and cuddles, and so to bed, and you place Ryland into his crib. When you've done that, you move to this corner here and you sit down, like so. So he can see the side of your face, but you're not giving him eye contact.
Each night, you move further and further away from the crib or bed so that you establish this pattern of your child feeling secure in their bed but not feeling anxious because they're left in their bedroom on their own.
Do not, under any circumstances, as soon as you see him trying to climb over, get up from your spot and try and stop him. Because what you will do is find yourself fighting with your son in the crib like this to try and keep him down. And you can't control that. From wherever he's standing, he's not getting no communication or eye contact with you, because that is what he's going to be looking for and that is what he's going to try and grab. And once he's got it, he won't stop.
So applied behavior analysis is a super interesting field, and it covers a lot of behaviors that have been tackled in many different ways in research, including sleep. One of the procedures that has been used to tackle sleep issues in children is something called faded bedtime, with or without a response cost. It's an interesting procedure, but I am not a fan, and that is because there are certain aspects of it that I find a little bit aversive. And this is how it would work. So a researcher would note what time Rylan fell asleep, and the following night they would move Ryan's bedtime to be 30 minutes after the time that he fell asleep the previous night. So once Rylan goes to bed on night number 2 and he's in bed, and if he takes longer than 15 minutes to fall asleep, then Rylan will be taken out of his bedroom and kept out of the bedroom for 60 minutes. And then he would be allowed back into the bedroom, and then another 15 minutes to see if he would fall asleep then. Now, the following night, on night number 3, you would then move Rylan's bedtime to be 30 minutes later than what it was the previous night, and then see if you would fall asleep in 15 minutes. And then this procedure is repeated until Rylan actually just goes to bed and then just falls asleep. It's been shown to be effective in increasing appropriate sleep at night and reducing daytime sleeping. But I think you can see how this can be a little bit aversive. I don't want to be dragging your child out of their bedroom and keeping them out of the bedroom for 60 minutes and making it later on consecutive nights. It almost feels counterproductive, but research has actually shown that it's effective. The second procedure that's been studied, and one that I would prefer, is something called differential attention. So, number 1, you establish a bedtime routine for your child. So you have a consistent routine for your child, and then you give them one free trip. So at any point, your child can come out of their bedroom and get you for attention, or they might call you to come into their bedroom for attention. One free trip. And then after that, the attention stops. You withhold attention. So every time they come out of their bedroom, you would take them back to the bedroom, put them in their crib or their bed, and then you would withhold attention. And this has been shown to be effective for reducing calling out and increasing the amount of time the child spends in bed and reducing the frequency with which they leave the bedroom. It's simple and it's effective. But I also really like what Supernanny is doing here, because she's introduced a fading procedure. So you're starting off in the bedroom with your child, but you're slowly fading yourself away out of the bedroom. And that's awesome. So we have a match, and that is 8 out of 11.
I was just so excited that we had gotten my 2-year-old to sleep, and, fairly calmly. I was just so happy I can't even put it into words.
I'm going to leave for a couple of days, and Jen and Bryce are going to have to put the techniques that I've taught them into practice, because I'm not around forever. You guys are on your own.
And we're now at the point where Supernanny leaves the family. And this bit bugs me a little bit, because as I mentioned before, we would do behavioral skills training to ensure that if I was introducing an intervention, I would make sure that you were able to carry out that intervention with mastery. But here, Supernanny, a little bit of training. It seemed really brief, and then now off she goes, and you're off on your own. Let's do this. So I feel that the training is not adequate, and that is why the matching score has gone down. And we go down to 8 out of 12. Train them.
Oh, look. Putting Rylan to bed. Excellent.
I got this one.
No.
What's that noise? Is that a musical toy? What is going on there? My word, it's a light show going on in the bedroom.
Night-night.
Bryce, you've overstimulated Rylan now. Bryce, you're never getting your son to sleep now, I'll tell you that for nothing.
I'm gonna turn this off.
Mom.
What were you thinking? At least one of them's sleeping.
And this goes down to procedural integrity. How closely are you sticking to the plan? Not very closely in this case. And I put this down to poor behavioral skills training. That wasn't really done in a structured way, in a thorough way. And this is the result. Poor procedural integrity. Ineffective training.
Rylan, sit and drink your juice, please.
Talk to the eyeball.
Huh?
Talk to the eyeball.
I am talking to your eyes.
Talk to the eyeball.
Talk to the hand.
Don't say that to me, okay? If I have to ask you again, you'll go to the naughty mat, okay?
Talk to the hand.
Are you talking to me?
Excuse me? Talk to the hand? I don't think so.
I'm done. Stop with your mouth.
So if you've already given him a warning, why is he not on the naughty mat?
And here's again another example of the inconsistent application of the procedures that have been recommended. So again, we go down. The matching score goes down because Jen hasn't been trained to mastery. So we're down to 8 out of 13.
Hello!
Hey, how are you?
Hi! How are you? I really love bringing in the DVD because it shows the parents exactly where they've gone wrong. OK, I've got footage for the pair of you to sit down and take a look at this. Okay, follow me then.
So behavioral skills training has a component of modeling. So if we were training together, I would be demonstrating the skill in the situation while you're watching. And this modeling can also be done via video. So you have something called video modeling plus feedback. And a good way of doing this is taking a video of yourself performing the skill and then watching that video back and getting feedback on your performance and analyzing your performance. And that's exactly what's going on here. And it's been done in behavioral skills training. There's some studies that have shown that it's an effective method for ensuring that you're acquiring skills quickly and keeping those skills. So we have a match. We have a match, and we are up to 9 out of 14.
Why is he on that mat?
He's on the mat for back talking outside and not taking his boots off when he got in.
So that's actually an example of one component of behavioral skills training, and we call this verbal competence, Are you able to describe the steps to me? Are you able to tell me why you're doing those steps? And that's exactly what's going on here. It looks like Supernanny is just checking verbal competence and ensuring Jen can explain why she's doing what she's doing and what she's doing.
I didn't think he would just go to bed within 25 minutes. That was amazing. Just feels awesome.
The biggest way it's impacted us, I think, is the sleep. Now I wake up and I'm refreshed and I'm ready to start my day. Ready? All right. And because of the schedule, I have a lot more balance between work and family.
Supernanny's intervention has clearly resulted in positive outcomes for the Bullards. But she could have done this much quicker had she done behavioral skills training with them. But would it have made great TV? Probably not, and I probably wouldn't be making this video. But anyway, how closely does Supernanny's approach match the science of behavior analysis? It is 64%. So check out the next video to see if this goes up or goes down.